Aloha everyone, I'm Zendo Kern, Planning Director for County of Hawaii, and I'm joined by Keith Okamoto, the manager and Chief Engineer for the Department of Water Supply. This is one of our talk stories in a series of meetings we're doing around lava recovery, the infrastructure, 428 FEMA funds, just how we're going to rebuild our community, resiliency, and how it affects the larger community. So obviously, the Department of Water Supply plays a huge role in this. I really want to thank Keith for you being here today to talk story. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk story about the process. So I'll throw it out to you, Keith. Like, here we are. Lava flow happened. Took out a lot of infrastructure. You guys went through the process of scoping as far as the FEMA work, the funds available, etc. And you got the floor, my man.
Right on. Well, thanks, Zendo. I appreciate the opportunity. And really, I want to start off by saying kudos to you and your staff, the recovery staff, for this whole process. I know it's been a huge effort, and as a department, we definitely appreciate your folks' efforts with that. So thank you for that.
And the working together has been huge. And I would say not so much for me, but the staff, Douglas and the whole buyout, the whole recovery team in its entirety. They're truly champions. Yep. And then working with you guys has just been outstanding. Gotta agree.
Alrighty. Well, as far as water infrastructure, so we lost about 14.5 miles of pipeline. 2 tanks, although they weren't inundated, they're rendered, inoperable basically.
Inoperable. Okay.
Right. So all that in total, coordinating with FEMA, doing the project evaluation after the disaster, we came up with an estimate that FEMA approved of about $40 million worth of water infrastructure. That was either lost, inundated, or rendered useless, basically. So actually what the water line did was it came down Pohoiki Road, cut across some private land, and I'm not sure the history behind that, came down and hit 137 on the Kapoho side of Isaac Hale.
Okay.
And then went back towards Kapoho vacation land and beach lots along 137. So yeah, we never did have any water line coming down 132.
That's how it was routed. That's fascinating. I grew up down that area. I've been down there for a long time. Grew up surfing Pohiki. Grew up in Wawa, actually. And always thought the water line, I think many did, went down 132 and looped. But it actually did some other kind of peculiar alignment.
That'd be a good word to call it. Yeah, peculiar alignment. It made sense to somebody at some point, I guess.
Sure.
But yeah, it was basically a one-way feed system coming from... basically near PGV, the triangle, intersection with Pohoiki and 132, and went that way.
Fascinating. Okay.
Yeah. So pretty much all of that was lost.
Gone.
Yeah. And that's a great point, because as you see, some of our thought processes for some of our proposed projects for the 428 funding. As we know, the 428 funding is an alternate procedures process with FEMA, a little bit different from their former, I think they called it public assistance type projects.
The distinction is that the public assistance project goes to replace that infrastructure directly where it was, versus the 428 gives you flexibility that if it doesn't make sense to put that infrastructure back in there, you can look at alternate projects.
Correct. And so it allows us an opportunity to, I guess, reset. Yeah. Right? And so that's one of the main things that we wanted to accomplish when we came up with our list of projects to utilize this FEMA funding. And what we wanted to do was be in line with the recovery plans. And I believe some of the objectives for the recovery plans were, of course, resilience and economic redevelopment.
Sure.
Right? And so that's the thought processes that we used to come up with some of the projects, along with some major considerations that we had to incorporate into our decision making was, one was the results of the buyout program.
Correct.
Because it really would not be prudent for us to invest or reinvest in infrastructure if people were not going to go back there.
And that's a good point, right? There was a lot of push in the community or wanting and understanding, and so with having the survey results that we got, it was indicating kind of like, hey, it looks like probably hitting 70% or so is looking at least at the buyout program to come out. So it's kind of like, okay, let's pause, let's observe. We launched the buyout program, and we're actually seeing closer to, say, 95 to 98% of the folks so far,
Wow.
which is telling, right? Which is
Right.
now drives that decision of, do you bring that type of infrastructure back down there, where really it's mainly buyouts. And actually, something that I learned from you is having a water line that isn't being used isn't a good thing.
No, no. And for one, the obvious reason that it's, why would you have infrastructure that's not being used, which is
Correct.
quite the obvious. But the other issue with us is water quality.
Yeah.
If water's not being used, it gets stagnant
Mhm.
and basically renders it not potable.
Mhm.
And the remedy to that is flush it.
Mm.
And flushing means basically you're throwing all that water.
Wastewater, just let them go.
Just dump it somewhere to flush the system to keep the water quality. And as we all know, that's really not the best way to utilize our resources.
No.
From an economic as well as a natural resource perspective.
Absolutely. So in that process, you got the data coming back. We got the buyout data coming back. The decision was made that we're not restoring water back down to Kapoho. So with that, there was a decision to look at bringing water back down to Pohiki. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I think we all understand the importance of the boat ramp for the overall community, and it's not just Lower Puna, right? I think that served as a shop, almost like a supermarket
Yes.
for the island and maybe beyond the island,
Yes.
I'm guessing. So
Yes.
we really understand the importance of that asset, and so one of the main projects that we partnered with Public Works, of course, is to restore the water line coming down Pohoiki Road, follow the proposed road alignment, of course, that makes the most sense, and hopefully get water back to the boat ramp as well as Isaac Holly Beach Park.
And I want to personally thank you for that. It's a big deal. I grew up down in that area, and just trying to bring life back down to Pohiki, Isaac Holly is a really big deal. And what I've seen is, we're going through this process. There's uncertainties. We have, cooling issues, alignment issues, and through this, like I say, uncertainty. Is the ground going to be, cool enough for it to work? And just seeing the departments and the directors coming together to work collaboratively, to work out a mechanism that we believe will work, there's no guarantee, but believe that will work, I think is really amazing. And personally really proud from actually just like a community member seeing that, not as a director even, but just seeing our community, our county work together. Hasn't always been like that, and I'm seeing this as really a lot of secondary gains in certain ways of really knocking down these silos, working together and find out how do we make it work. So just it's really neat to see. So the water coming back down to Pohiki, universe willing.
Yeah, we got to get some of the stars to align, but yeah, your point is bigger than I think a lot of people realize. We all have our priorities, each department, and I've been here for a while. I've been through several administrations, and I think this is very encouraging that there's so much focus on trying to break down the silos and having everybody work together. Because ultimately, we're all here to serve our community, our customers, and things like that. So,
Yes.
and that's what we're trying to do with these decisions. Like you said, there's some hurdles
Absolutely.
with everything. Cooling for us is going to be the major one, but hopefully we can find a path forward. And that's all tied to, again, recovery and resiliency, and those are the two main points I think that we try to factor in coming up with the alternate projects that we have.
So let's talk a little bit about that, right?
Okay.
So the decision was made based on the data that, obviously not restoring that original infrastructure, we're taking it back down to Pohiki where it really does make sense, it's gonna have a huge impact, but it leaves you with some funding.
Yeah.
So now there's the opportunity to look at other projects.
Exactly. Yeah, and thanks for that, because that's one thing that we have not had in the past with FEMA funding. And so, again, we'd like to take this opportunity, in what way can we best serve the area with these alternate projects, right? So the other key decision factors for us was, okay, where can we invest where there's potential for economic and housing opportunities? The other thing that we really need to consider, because we got to figure, okay, if this is taxpayer money paying to fund this stuff,
Sure.
really, is it prudent or sensible to put it in an area that could potentially be high hazard again. So that had to really factor in our decisions. I know it was a tough decision. We really empathize with those who lost their homes and businesses in the area. But at the same time, we have an opportunity now to reinvest and allow for different opportunities, hopefully for these same folks.
Yes.
You know, we don't know exactly where they've gone or where they plan to go, but hopefully with the plans moving forward, if they can see where our projects are going, that will help them make decisions down the road on some of their options.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. And interestingly, you know, Puna's always been one of those places that's been a little bit challenging for water infrastructure. So this is a unique opportunity through these alternate projects to kind of reinvest, reshape, and add some resiliency, some basically just a different life into some of these areas.
Exactly.
We're looking at alternate projects. We're looking at, you know, analyzing the data that we're receiving back, and people have moved out of Puna, people have moved into Puna, but a lot of them have moved kind of into say HPP, up, you know, Curtistown, Mountain View. So there's still a lot of folks that lived in Puna, that lived in Kapoho area that are still in Puna, which is neat because your list of alternate projects are in Puna, and that's special.
Right, and I think, that was, although we don't have, real concrete information on where, from our side, where our customers may have tended to go, I think we just went with the understanding that, if you lived in Puna, there was a reason, right? You enjoyed the area and probably highly likely to stay within the area.
Sure.
And it just makes sense, right? If we have this opportunity, let's reinvest in the area and hopefully provide even additional opportunities beyond what was lost.
Correct. And that leads me to one of your projects you have on here is bringing the water line down to HPP. The county has 20 acres in HPP for a park. It currently isn't served by any water, really limited on infrastructure. So this is an opportunity to possibly bring water infrastructure down there, which to me is critical for a park. Which now we've lost something, but we're gaining something new.
Correct. Right, exactly. And, glad you brought that particular project up, Zendo, because it kind of checked a bunch of boxes. Resiliency. So right now we just have one water line coming down Kīlauea Road, right? If there's a main break,
Done.
that's it until we fix it.
Sure.
What this HPP water line project will do will take a dead end that's in Maku Hawaiian Homelands right now, run it into HPP to an existing line that's coming down Paradise Drive.
Okay.
And then from there, we're going to come across, hit that 20-acre parcel on the corner of Kīlauea, and I'm not sure what the exact street name is, but
In the mid or low 20s,
20s,
25th,
right.
26th, yeah.
and then come up Kīlauea back to Kīlauea Road. So what that does now is that provides a loop system for us. So if there's a main break in one of those segments, water can still flow. Critical, as well as, again, like we talked about water quality previously, right? Now we have water moving, not in a dead-end situation, but it can flow in both directions.
Sure, so it's improving the general water quality for those users, creating resiliency, redundancy to a degree. Okay, and
as
so
well as opportunity, right?
And I think that opportunity is huge, right? And obviously water plays a huge part in that with any of this. What I've seen is, and through one of our last community outreach meetings we had, you put together a list of projects that basically oversubscribes the amount of money that we have.
Right. So, the other project that, I did want to mention is water line improvements within Pahoa Village.
Okay.
I think that's also in line with some of the objectives for the recovery planning process.
Yes.
But like you said, all of these, we subscribed or over prescribed, I guess, a list of projects. So I think our total right now, we have about a dozen or so projects that right now, based on our best guess estimate, it comes out to about $55 million worth of projects for the area. So like you said, now we have this list of projects. We'd like to get some community feedback on them, see how we can prioritize them. And or maybe we just missed the ball on a few of these, right? And maybe we can consider something else, right? So that's all the stuff we're hoping to accomplish.
And I find that that's critical because it actually leads to more of a conversation instead of just getting feedback. In certain cases with infrastructure recovery, we're limited. Say with the roads, we got these roads going in and we're basically right there, so it's hard to get additional feedback. you know, in this case, you're able to get that additional feedback. It shows the community that we're really trying to work with and provide options, but really try to also maintain that bottom line. Say, like, you know, economic recovery in Puna is a big deal. Water is critical for that, or, you know, how do we line up with potentially other you know, pushes, say, like wastewater. If wastewater's going in, can you guys get with, you know, so it's kind of, there's a lot of factors going on around this.
Right.
So ultimately, through this process, it looks like we'll actually be able to bolster the water system in Puna beyond what it was before.
Right. And again, I mean, this is, you know, kudos to FEMA with coming up with this process, because I think for lava recovery, I think it's a really valid option for us. You know, other natural disasters, you can go back.
Yeah.
After a hurricane, after a flood, typically, you can go back and restore the infrastructure that was lost exactly where it was.
Yeah.
This case, a little different. In
Way different.
Right.
We got 40-foot high banks of lava in some cases, 20, 50, 60.
Right. So, yeah, I think we can see this as an opportunity for the region, for the people of Puna, and you know, it may not be some perfect solutions for everybody, but hopefully for the overall community in general, it'll be some great things that could possibly happen down the road.
You know, and on that note, it's tricky. In doing, you know, what I've seen is coming in from this perspective with my limited time here, it's really hard to make everybody happy. In a situation like this, we're not. And so it was one of the things that we wanted to do here was just continue to open up our communication, open up our transparency to say, even if you may not agree with everything, we're going to talk about it. We're going to lean into some of these more challenging issues, and we're going to put it out there instead of shying away from it. I think it'll hopefully serve the community to say, may not always agree, but they're there, they're communicating and moving forward. You know, you've been in government for a while, you know the process, so, you know, things take longer than we'd want them to take. And so are you seeing, like, at this point in time, are we at a decent pace? Are we at about what's acceptable? Where do you think we're going as far as pace goes?
Yeah, so, you know, first of all, we got to recognize that it's not that we want things to go slower.
No.
We'd rather have things done.
Yes.
It's just the process sometimes, even for us in government, when we deal with the rules and regulations that we need to abide by, sometimes it even gets frustrating for us. We're hopeful that once we have a good set of plans to move forward with, then it will, at least we got that train rolling, and we're committed to making these projects happen. One thing that we really need to make sure of is that FEMA buys off on the proposed projects and complies with whatever their requirements are for the funding. So that's definitely a consideration that we need to make sure that we abide by.
Yes.
Right. So
we don't have the ultimate control over that, right? FEMA has the ultimate control over that mechanism. It's something I was talking with Ikaika Rodenhurst about a while back, was that, you know, through this process, it feels like we've actually improved our relationship with FEMA, even though we've had some conversations that I'd say would be challenging, maybe not getting the answer we'd want. But by keeping that dialogue and that open mindset, I feel like we've actually improved our relationship. We're having calls with the top brass there, and they're responsive, and so hopefully that will help not only for this, but for, you know, years to come into the future, right?
hopefully, I mean, like you said, I've been in government for a while, and I've been through several natural disasters and worked with FEMA and the state HIEMA office. And like you said, this is the most promising relationship that I've seen since. Like you said, we've been able to talk with the Region 9 director, you know, face to face, right? And from what I understand, they actually have committed and in place right now local representation from FEMA.
They do.
Right? Say they live here, work here, part of the community.
Yep.
And to me, that's key.
Big deal.
For that communication and that relationship, as well as the understanding of the needs of our communities, right? So,
Yeah, And that's a critical point, is actually having some of that boots on the ground to understand our community. It's unique.
Right.
You know, the Big Island's unique, Hawaii's unique, Puna's unique, and to actually have some boots on the ground understanding, I think, will really help pay off down the road.
Agreed.
You know, are there any other specific alternate projects you want to discuss at this moment, or anything else you want to talk about related to the lava recovery efforts?
No, like I said, we have about a dozen or so. I think we'll get that information out through the recovery
Yep.
team
Yep.
and the website. And I think that'd be the cleanest way so people can see what we are proposing,
Yep.
where these projects are, what the scope of these projects are, and what the relative associated estimated costs are.
Absolutely.
Including, I think we'll also throw in there, if we can, project duration. You know, so people at least have an idea of how long a project like this may take.
Sure.
Once it gets into construction.
Sure, that's always helpful, and with the caveat that always, even our best plans usually take a little longer than we'd want them to.
Right.
But what I've seen on the backside of things is it's not without effort and determination. Like, everybody's working really hard to push these things forward.
Yeah.
It's easy to look in from the outside and be like, come on, make it go faster, and we all want that, and yet it goes the speed that it goes.
Yeah.
Through this process of knocking down the silos, collaboratively working together, I think we're making gains beyond just this, even for other areas on our island, other areas in our community, other projects, and just trying to bring more communication, collaboration in there. And I say communication twice because it's one of the most challenging elements,
Right.
communicating with the departments, communicating with staff, and communicating with the public, and always making sure that those lines are open and they're effective. Thus, having these meetings, talking story helps with that.
Mhm.
Doesn't solve it, but at least it moves it forward in the right area. And being able to have that open dialogue, you and I always have a good one with that. Hey, give me a call. Can we do this a different way? Shoot, you know what I mean? Or that
Exactly.
real feedback.
Right.
I appreciate it. So, I just want to say it's an absolute pleasure to be working with you. I really appreciate everything that you guys are doing. Thanks for taking the time with us today.
No, thanks for the opportunity.